Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another one of Wynn Starbound Talks, where we talk to the stars. Well, not really. We're talking... well, I'll say my head is in the clouds when I'm talking about these types of things. But, for the most part, well, you get to see gameplay of Starbound, I suppose. You get to see me playing Starbound, and I will warn you that my gameplay when playing Starbound and talking about random ramblings is not going to be very objective. And also, I hope that I kind of got rid of the keyboard sound as well. I mean, if I'm going to be overlaying, obviously, the sound with the in-game sound, or should I say the microphone sound, I'm overlaying with the actual in-game music that you can probably hear right now. Say, for instance, the combat music and such. Oh my god, this guy. No, I'll save you, dude! Get out of the way! Don't! I will protect you. Help, I have been accosted. You'll be fine, lady. Are you fine? Oh, you're adorable, really. Well, gee, thanks, I kinda saved your life. I'm not sure that's something you should call somebody that just saved your life, although, to be fair, it's not really a mean thing to say, so you can probably get away with it. But anyway, there were actually a few things that I wanted to talk about, philosophically-wise, or just like random thought rambling-wise. One of them, or the first thing that I would like to talk about, I haven't actually got other things lined up yet. I'm sure they'll come to me as I speak, though. Is egotism. You know when somebody says that somebody else is egocentric, that generally means that that person only cares for themselves, right? Well, I don't think that's true. I think of a different idea whenever I hear somebody calling somebody else an egotist. Although I kind of understand what the other person is trying to infer. They're trying to talk not nice things about the guy in question, or the person in question. Don't mean to, presuppose a gender to this person, this fictional character who I made up in my head literally right as I started talking about this thing, although he doesn't actually have a character. Or she. There I go again with that thing. I kind of need to heal myself. I'm at 2 health. I need to get myself more bandages. But, yeah, egotism is an interesting subject. As I just mentioned, people who call other people egotistic think that they care nothing about other people and they care more about themselves. It's generally like how you'd expect the shrewd businessman to operate. You expect him to do everything for himself and, be extraordinarily financially responsible, but only care for himself. He'll make money in any means necessary. That is generally the accepted idea of egotistic people. But I think of something different when I do it. When I think of that, I think of myself as a relatively egotistical person. Now, I'm not necessarily out to, cause badness for other people or anything. What I mean by egotistic, what I mean when I call myself egotistic, is, let me try and think of a way to phrase this so that it's articulate. I think more about myself than I do about other people. But I don't necessarily think that I need to do something for myself in, if it comes to the detriment of another person. I don't think that at all. If anything comes to the detriment of another person, then that is, you have my sincerest apologies if I was the cause of whatever it is that just happened to that person. I mean, if it was good, then I probably won't apologize. I mean, if it was a good thing that happened to the person, I probably wouldn't apologize. I'd say, oh yeah, I helped you, I helped aid that, or, I might not even say that I helped aid that at all. I might just say, that's a very fortunate situation you found yourself in. Okay, that sounded a little bit more, strange than what I was expecting. But then you have the other end of the spectrum, which are people, and I have met them. Several of my good friends are actually this other thing I'm talking about, and the other thing I'm talking about is altruistic. If you don't know what that word means, excuse me while I rehydrate my throat because it's kind of getting a bit dry. Altruistic. What the word means, altruism, it means you're more on the social side of the spectrum, you're more outgoing, you think less about yourself and more about other people. You're more likely to make other people's worries your worries. Yeah, I'd say that's a sufficient definition for my purposes. Oh my god, I completely ruined the landscape around here. I'm gonna actually go and do a little bit of spelunking down here. Actually, I need some food. But I don't really have that much food. Oh, I'm probably gonna die, aren't I? Okay, what I need to do first is I need to go and grab this, and then place you down somewhere where I can actually place you down without having to worry about landscaping issues. Let's just grab this and do that. That should be a wide enough flat surface for me to do this, and I need a hoe. No, not the derogatory term used to define certain, a certain, I was about to say a certain species of people, and I'm like, wait, no, that's not right. Then I decided I was going to say a certain race of people, but that's not right either. A certain type of person. I need the farming instrument. That was a long convoluted way of, saying that I needed a farming instrument. I also need, well, a house and all that kind of stuff is also pretty nice. In fact, I'm gonna zoom out to my spaceship and then walk back down to the planet. Should take me to the starting area, yep. And this is going to be where the house is. Altruistic people are people, as I mentioned, who think more about other people, and those tend to be the more social people. I always like to think of them, or from what I've seen of people who I consider altruistic, who I consider to fulfill that idea in my head of altruism that I have. They kind of make other people's problems their own problems, and I almost think that they do it so that they kind of forget their own problems. I mean, everyone has their problems. It's like the challenge of life. If there were no problems in somebody's life, then honestly, that would be kind of a boring life. I mean, it would be great if all of the problems that were, say, in my life, for instance, it would be great if they were all, gone, or whatever, but another aspect of it is how much these problems actually get to you. If the problems don't get to you that much, then you don't really need to worry about them. But if people try and go out and make other people's problems their own problems for the sake of forgetting their own issues, then I'd say that they kind of are, well, they're obviously concerned and worried about their own problems, because then they wouldn't be trying to make other people their own problems. It's almost an escapism in that kind of way. You escape from your own problems by thinking about other situations. I would say it's no different for, say for instance, the teenager who is socially awkward and doesn't get along too much with everybody at high school, or doesn't get along at all with everyone in high school, and he spends his time, or her time, again, not to be gender specific, they spend their time, free time, not communicating with friends, but rather sitting alone at home and playing video games. I'd say it's kind of the same thing in terms of root desire. Why do people play video games? Well, mostly it's, the entertainment, but also it acts to serve as escapism from the real world. And that helps to distract yourself from some of the problems. Like, if you worry about problems for every single day of your life, that's a problem in itself. You could probably need to go and get that sorted out with a psychiatrist or something, or go through cognitive behavioral therapy or something like that. Oh my god, my point. What is my point? This happens sometimes as well. I kind of go on a tangent of a tangent and then I forget my original point. Yeah, that kind of happens. I think I might have some sort of, thought disorder. I'm just joking. I don't think I have thought disorder. But yeah. In terms of my own personal experience of altruism and egotism, As I mentioned, I view myself as a very egotistic person, but not to the detriment of others. And by that I mean I think about myself a lot. Like, I think about situations that I might find myself in, like, also things like, if I head out, will I appreciate the other people that I'm with? I'm not so much if the other people appreciate me, but more like, will I appreciate them? Although, recently, like, within the last few years of my life, I have started to be more aware of other people. And it also caused me, because of my increased awareness of other people that I seem to think that I have found in myself. Because of that, I kind of started thinking about these things and going into, oh my god, not physiology, it's not physiology, it's not psychology, it's philosophy. I kind of found myself delving a bit more into philosophy, because sure, it takes an intellectual mind in order to speak in terms of philosophical matters. You need to obviously think about certain things. It's easy enough to, go out and say what is the meaning of life and try and have somebody else answer for you. But if you don't answer, or if you don't give your own opinion, or if you haven't thought about it that much yourself, then I wouldn't say you're really you're not really philosophizing about it, if that's even a word. If it is, then if I just made that word up, take it to mean that I think that people aren't thinking about it, which is probably a better definition of the point that I'm trying to get across. This word needs to be refined. But yeah, philosophy it takes an intellectual person in order to come up with some interesting ideas. Oh my god, that wasn't enough wood. And the most interesting ideas are by some of the, well, okay, should I say the most well-known? I wouldn't say necessarily the most interesting factors, but the most well-known psychological, oh my god, there I go again. The most well-known philosophical theories are from people like, say, Plato and who else? Other people. Oh my god. The only one coming to my mind right now is Plato, but, the other ancient Greek people, like, Apostle? No, what's his name? Nephophiles? No, oh my god, this guy's name. Aristotle, that's his name. Those are generally people or names that you would associate with philosophy, right? Aristotle and Plato. In fact, Plato has his own philosophical idea called Plato's Cave, which kind of denotes prisoners inside of a cave only being shown the shadows of the silhouettes that their captors deign to entertain them with. But in reality, the prisoners don't know what's actually behind the wall behind them, which is actually the captors with the puppets of whose shadows they see on the walls. I apologize if this commentary feels like very disjointed and broken. I could have actually just moved into this house, but oh well. I'll get better in time. But the idea of Plato's Cave is that the prisoners don't know the actual truth, and they go on thinking that what they've experienced is actually the truth itself. So therefore, when a prisoner goes out and escapes, and finds out the actual truth, when he comes back and tells the other prisoners, they're like, no man, that's impossible, you're like speaking crap. There is no way that could happen. You've like gone insane. But in reality, the guy's speaking the truth. I'm sure it's also the cause of, or the idea behind a whole bunch of, say, paranoid people, or say all of those, what are they called? Okay, my brain is kind of dead, okay? The time right now is actually like 11 in the evening, and I'll tell you, I normally go to sleep before 11. Or should I say, I don't normally speak like this at 11. I'm really good at thinking it, but speaking it is a different matter. Being able to articulate your thoughts is a different matter entirely than just simply thinking. But Plato's Cave really, like, comes up with the idea that, or really proposes that, we've been taught the society's ways of teachings, and if somebody else comes out and mentions something else about society, then we think, no man, you're wrong, you don't understand. But the guy does understand, he was there once. It's just his word isn't being accepted anymore because, well, he's gone out and seen all these supposedly ludicrous things in relative to the people who actually live there. It's just complicated. Okay, it's not complicated. It's complicated for me to articulate it. But I hope to get better at this. So that's why I'm doing this. Oh my god. That bird just dropped lava at me. It had like 6 eyes as well. Air, blood, what? What did that say? Air, blood, vomit. Oh my god, don't vomit blood up on me, dude. That's just really bad. Ow, oh my god. And the blood also hurts, apparently. Man, what do you have in your blood? Some kind of acidic properties or something? Okay, I am actually going to try and block myself in. This is one way to make a quick home. One of the other things I've also thought about recently, and I'm not sure if I can articulate in a sufficient standard right here, is the idea of thinking to yourself in your own native language. Say for instance you are... Okay, I'm just going to take the basic example. My first language is English. I think in English and I do most of my communication in English. Other than, you know, when I'm speaking to a Japanese person and I'm speaking Japanese or something. But when you think in your head, you think in your language, right? That makes sense. But there are some thoughts that go on inside your head that doesn't need language. You don't think about the language when you say it, or when you think it. The idea just comes to you. The best example of this that I can provide is, say like you're in a social setting, and you can understand that this guy wants something out of you. You don't actually say in your head, okay, this guy wants something from me, and how do I try and let him not know that I know that he wants this? How do I prevent this guy from knowing that I know he wants something? That sounds a little bit complicated in hindsight. Oh my god, hindsight. In retrospect, but that is what I mean. You don't have the time to think about those things in your head. You actually just respond almost immediately in a social setting. You carefully socially navigate all within like the reactionary time it takes to respond to a question. There are people out there who are really good at socialization, and while I say I'm not, you know, the most articulate person, as you can tell I have a bit of concerns about the things that or the way that I say things, and the way that I speak. Am I really just going to wait here until daylight comes? I really need to find myself some new stuff. In fact, I'm actually going to give myself a little area over here so that I can teleport myself back onto my thing over here. Do I have any coal on my character? I do have coal on my character. So what I can do is I can place this coal in here and add it as fuel. Oh my god, that's like 50 fuel? Oh well. Now what we can do is we can go and travel to another place. Oh, it only takes 1 fuel. So if you guys aren't aware, this is another aspect of the game. You get to travel to other planets. So I'm going to go and do this, and we're traveling to the moon of this planet. I believe it's the moon of this planet at least. Yeah, the whole idea of thinking is, I reckon there's a substantial amount of thought to be put into thinking about thinking. Like, what makes the thoughts of yourself when you're like thinking to yourself about philosophical topics, or I'd say it's also the same as when you're trying to comprehend a complicated question, like say a maths question in like an exam. I bet you when you're sitting, or okay, I don't know what the average demographic of the people watching this is, but if you're in an exam and you find a question that you don't quite know how to answer, I bet you in your head you are speaking to yourself in your own language, right? But you don't do that when you're speaking to somebody in a social setting. You don't communicate to yourself in your language because it'll just take too long to firstly think and then formulate a response. Okay, this planet looks kind of strange. I think this is like poisonous water. Green water is poisonous, and I really don't know if these guys are hostile or not. They are not. That's always good. So I'm gonna just collect some of these vines here. But I really wonder how or why we have these different thoughts. I mean, the thoughts in essence are different from each other. One of them you articulate to yourself, and the other one you don't. And that also raises the question, do you need to have... Oh my god, I got poisoned. Do you need to have a language in order to think higher thoughts or something? I don't know anyone at all, like ever, who can do a complicated math question that they've never seen before in their head without communicating to themselves in some manner or form, or without language. If we didn't have language, oh my god, it's another one of those guys. If we didn't have language, how would we speak to ourselves? It's really confusing. I'm also certain that some of you will say, but Wynn, there are people out there who can do sign language, they don't speak to themselves. Well, they don't speak to themselves, of course, but they still communicate with themselves. They communicate via sign. They would probably think in sign language. If sign language is their very first language, and their native language, then they are going to want to think about things in their own language. So instead of, inside your head hearing your own thoughts, okay, I use hearing kind of loosely because, you don't actually use your ears to listen to your own thoughts. But they actually, in the same way that we listen to our thoughts, they see their thoughts. If you understand what I mean. So do you really need, like, a specific language in order for higher thought processes? Did language itself pave the way for advanced thoughts? Or did we simply evolve that, or is it like an independent factor? Like, is language needed to think higher thoughts, or is it just serendipitous that we use language in order to facilitate our complicated thought processes? I mean, I'm pretty sure... Okay, I can't really say for certainty because I haven't experienced it. But what I'm going to say is, we can't know for sure if the... Oh my god, I need coal. We don't know for certain if dolphins communicate or think to, or even have thoughts at all. Because we can't really experience life as a dolphin because, physical impossibility for a human to experience life as a dolphin exactly as a dolphin experiences it. But I kind of wonder if dolphins think to themselves in the language that they use to communicate. And then that's also like, what about domesticated cats and dogs? What do they communicate to themselves in? Do they just simply have the thoughts, like say the thoughts that we have when we socialize that we don't actually articulate to ourselves? We have ideas in our head that we don't necessarily talk to ourselves about, but we know that they're there. It's happened to me several times. I come across a certain thing that I can agree with or disagree with, but it's like, why do I agree or disagree with? Well, it like resonates with me. It feels right. But the thing is, I don't articulate that to myself in my head. It's just like a thought that happens. It's like, this feels right, or this feels wrong, or this feels like it could be the truth, and this feels like it could be a lie, for instance. I don't necessarily exactly say those words in my head. I don't even say any words along those sort of lines when I think that in my head. Now, that might, you know... I can only experience things for myself, so... Who knows, I might actually have, like, some sort of thought disorder. But, you know... Which causes me to, you know, not articulate things to myself. But then what about babies and children? I mean, they don't know how to communicate in language. They just have images and thoughts and visual cues. Their thoughts are not facilitated by use of language in their own heads. But when we get older, that's the only way that we learn how to communicate with ourselves by. It's weird. It's like, yeah. I find it a very interesting thing to think about. Thinking about how people think to themselves. Anybody watching this, you know, post your own thoughts in the comments, like, obviously the articulated ones. I can't actually make sense of the non-articulate ones. I can understand people having non-articulate thoughts. How to explain it? It's like... Okay, here's a good one. You see this mountain in the background, if you're not actually watching there. It's kind of like a mountain in the background that we can't interact with, it's just there for decoration. How do you explain a mountain? You're having trouble, aren't you? If you're not, then, well, tell me what a mountain is defined as. I'll probably check it up myself after this video, actually. But, like... Yeah, how do you explain a mountain? Or how do you describe a mountain? You know what a mountain is, but you can't articulate it. It's exactly the same thing. You know the idea of a mountain. You know that mountains exist, and you can tell a mountain when you see it, but you can't describe it to someone. You can't describe it that well. It's very similar to color as well. You can't describe it, but you can think about it. Oh my god, please stop poisoning me. Why am I constantly taking damage? Is it the rain? Oh my god, it's poison rain. Are you serious? I don't know if you guys can see, but this rain is like... green. I've never seen this before. And also so much for me, you know, making a house and whatnot. What is my food at? Can I check my food? Oh, no, that is just throwing my weapon away. I'm sure it's one of these buttons. I know O, P, L. Oh, L is my quest log. Oh no, J is my quest log. Okay. Oh my god, this rain. But back to the topic of altruism and... oh my god, what was the other one that I mentioned? It's altruism and egotism. What is... I wonder if my idea of egotistical is actually defined as something else by the common mass. If so, I'd really love to know what it is. It's somebody who thinks more about themselves than other people, but do not do it at the detriment to other people. I'd like to think of altruism and egotism to be sort of like a percentage factor in somebody's personality. If you are... Say for instance you are a shrewd businessman, as aforementioned, and also, you know, a sociopath, for instance. Not that I'm trying to say that sociopaths are all businessmen or all businessmen are sociopaths, but I heard it does actually kind of help to be a sociopath in business, but that's another matter entirely. Or should I say the most wealthy people, or the most business successful people. You know, those guys. Substantial or larger portion of them are probably sociopaths. At least this is from conjecture that I heard. I've never actually witnessed this. I do not have proof of this myself. I'm just merely saying this stuff. And we found like a ape complex actually. Let's see, what do you want to say? A drawn weapon is a sign of intent. Okay. Hi. Do you... What? You're beginning to test my patience. Put that weapon away. You could have told me to put it away first instead of speaking in some kind of cryptic language. Psst, behind every clock is a camera. Be careful. Oh my god, these guys are paranoid. You see, these guys probably... Okay. These guys probably think about themselves a lot. I mean, sure, they worry for their own safety, and they worry for the safety of other people. But, actually, you know, I take that back. These guys probably don't think about themselves. This guy has a really nice weapon, though. But yeah, it's a percentage factor. People who are good at business, for instance, like the people that I've mentioned, are probably going to have a higher percentage of egotistical behavior or egotistical thought patterns than someone who is, you know, socially outgoing and whatnot. Now, do all socially outgoing people have an altruistic viewpoint? I mean, I'm sure it helps. I view myself as, you know, a very social being. Like, I really enjoy socializing with intellectual people and, you know, people who are different from me, which is, you know, kind of all people. Not necessarily just people who have a intellectual viewpoint. Everybody can view themselves as intellectual, sure. It's just the idea of trying to understand their point. That's what I kind of like want to get out of other people. I want to understand their point. That is my egotistical reason for, you know, being social. I want to understand people. Now, the reason why it's egotistical, because it's the I want. I want this, I want that. It all boils down to a desire to learn more. I say that I am oh my god, these guys. I say I am in pursuit of knowledge. I am a knowledge lover. But I also like to experience things, and the best way to learn is to experience. Which is something that academics really need to kind of like get into their minds. You can't expect to teach somebody, say, trigonometry and expect to use it when judging the distance between here and that tree over there, for instance. Because, you know, it's different application. You're not sitting in a classroom looking down at a piece of paper saying, okay, so, cos is that over that, and tan is that over that, and then you have cosine and tangent and whatnot. Now, when you're looking at a tree, you don't think that. Okay, well, I'm sure there are people out there who think that, and those people will be really good mathematicians later in life, because they search for the practical application of things. But for the most part, a lot of people don't. It's a different environment, so you don't know when to use that thing, or trigonometry. You don't... Yeah, I think I said my piece on that, actually. Different environments don't necessarily mean that you use what you have learned. Like, for instance, stuff that you learn in the classroom, you might not, like, even comprehend to use in a actual real-life situation. Because, I mean, classrooms. We've learned this stuff in classrooms. We have no idea who or... Oh my god, these guys are going to kill me, aren't they? Oh, they're not. Okay. We've never... Like, students haven't really used trigonometry outside of the class before, especially not at GCSE level. At least, I don't think they have. I'm sure there are, obviously, exceptions, but enough about these exceptions. I think I left my campfire behind. Oh, I'm just going to get my table here, and then plant it here, and create a new campfire. Campfire... Campfire? I need a torch. Oh, that's fine, I can easily make a torch, right? Yeah. Let's go and make a few torches. And then a campfire. Another thing that I have kind of comprehended within my grasp fairly recently is the difference between things. When somebody asks, what's the difference between, say, right and good? Well, the very first difference is the name. I mean, that's the most blatantly obvious reason or thing that is different. The name. I mean, a lot of people have probably thought about this before and therefore have deemed it important to separate these ideas by giving them different identities, as they embody completely different things. Like, oh my god, this guy again. I can't deal with this guy. Let's say... Did I articulate this earlier before? Good is subjective. Good and bad are subjective terms, or they can be applied subjectively. The ideas are not subjective, because the ideas are kind of like a metaphysical thing. And good and right and wrong are more morally inclined ideas. Say for instance the lion who, you know, goes out and kills its prey. It's good for the lion that it went out and killed its prey, but it's bad for the prey because it's kind of dead. I feel like I have actually articulated this before. If so, then I apologize for that. Oh my god, the game. Don't... Oh, you guys just lost the game, by the way. Oh my god, Gravity Slam. Don't do that to me. Sorry, my mind is getting really befuddled right now. I need coal. I need a torch. I have coal. Okay, good. Let's do that and then do that. Grab that, put that there. Oh my god, poison. Really. Well, we're just gonna have to navigate our way around this poisonous vat, I suppose. I want to start digging into the ground. But yeah, that's one of the major differences. Another thing is like, what's the difference between a boyfriend and a girlfriend? Well, the name. But they both have the name, they both have the word friend in, right? So they had to be related. Well, yeah, they're related, but they're still different concepts. Like, boyfriend and girlfriend kind of like insinuates that you have a romantic interest in this other person. But that yet you are still friendly to them, right? I mean, people have different ideas of what girlfriend and boyfriend mean to themselves. One person would say that girlfriend/boyfriend needs to be treated completely differently than how you treat your friends. I mean, that does kind of make sense considering what I just said. They're different ideas, so therefore there's a lot of differences, so if you treat them differently, then it's not like you're treating them as the same idea. Do not treat people as ideas, by the way. That's probably kind of a bad idea in itself. Treat people as people, and people will treat you as a respectable person. Hopefully, most of the time. But some other people, like, for myself for instance, I view the concept of boyfriend and girlfriend to... Well, you need to be friends with them first. Like, I know that kind of like subjects me to being in the friend zone a lot, and you know what? Hey, if people friend zone me, then that's fine. I mean, they're good friends. But yeah, other people just... They don't have... Well, some other people don't have that same opinion. Well, okay, a lot of other people don't have that same viewpoint. I, for instance, know some people who have multiple different romantic interests at the same time. And the thing is, the romantic interests are kind of like... They're aware of it, but they don't really mind, because they still get the person that they're interested in. Right? To me, that is kind of like... Why would you do that? Well, okay. Honestly, I don't know what it means to me. I view it as there's something a bit off about the situation, but these people seem to be perfectly fine with it themselves, so why shouldn't I be fine about their own situation? Okay. There are examples of where being fine with another person's situation because they're fine isn't a good idea. Say for instance you see that somebody is in, or you feel that someone is in a toxic relationship, like say their significant other or like their romantic interest starts to berate and belittle their partner. That's kind of bad. The other person or the partner might feel like they are... Oops, sorry. the partner might feel like they have no choice, that they still love the other person perfectly fine, and that they're the only real person who's ever loved them, although that kind of like, that's kind of... I really hate it when people do that. It's like, dude, be a respectable human being or else... I was about to say, or else don't live, but, that's kind of harsh. It's like, wow, when did you really just say that? Yeah, I did, and it kind of reflects my opinion, but, I don't act on it. I don't act on trying to alleviate things that way. Sure, I have the thoughts that it's like, it would be better if this person wasn't in this situation, and it's better if this person didn't actually know this other person ever, or like, they decided that it wasn't a good idea to be around them as often. And I have seen several relationships actually go quite sour with that. I've seen quite a few toxic relationships. In fact, I have this is a bit of a personal thing. I kind of have a family member who is in a situation like that, and it's really sad, because I really like that family member, but this guy has is extraordinarily controlling. Yeah, guys are always the problem. Hey, I'm a guy. Well, yeah, but I kind of hope I'm not a problem. It's like... People who say all guys are a problem, I think that's different to saying that all problems are guys. Hold on, No, that's not right. In the relationships, the most common, or the most known relationships, have it where the guy is the problem. So that would lead the other person... I actually don't know the dynamic of a homosexual relationship, so I'm gonna just assume a heterosexual relationship, like a guy with a girl, or a guy with a woman, Hold on, let me go and get comfortable myself. I have been sitting in this pose for quite a while, and I need to kind of move my muscles so they don't forget how to move. That doesn't actually happen, Yeah, I don't know how it actually worked in a homosexual relationship, should I say. But in a heterosexual relationship, the guy is, most of the time, what's causing the problem, and that will cause the woman to want to think that all guys are problematic, like, all men are out to get me kind of thing. But the thing is, not all men are problematic. Not all problems are men. Not all men are problems. It's kind of like that dynamic. Let me try and think of another example. It's like... Can't really think of a good one. And yes, I am just waiting... Why am I waiting out the night? I should be going down and spelunking. You guys are probably yelling at me for my gameplay if you're indeed actually watching. Instead of, just listening. I can't really think of another example. Although, this episode is actually nearing its end. It's nearing the 45-minute mark. So I'm going to end the episode, and at the beginning of the next one, I'm going to give you guys another example of what I mean by, the dynamic of not all A is B, but all B is A type thing. No, not all A is B, and not all B is A. Actually, I think there is... I have read about that fairly recently. It's like a... Oh my god, what is it? It's like a relationship, or a logical relationship thing. Anyway, I thank you guys for watching / listening. I will see you guys in the next episode. I hope you guys are enjoying these, Wynn Starbound talks, because I kind of am. It's kind of helping me to form my own opinions on things. As I mentioned in the previous episode, just simply talking about things kind of helps you to get things more well thought out. You don't necessarily have to help the person actively, like if they're in a problematic situation. You can just help them by listening to them. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.